Ladies and gentlemen, the session is about to begin.
The 1998 Ramon Magsaysay Award for Government Service, Syed Adeeb-Ul-Hasan Rizvi. In Sindh province, poor people suffer disproportionately from kidney and urinary system diseases. Stones are a common scourge, and every year 3,000 men, women and children face end-stage renal kidney failure. For these people, early death is certain without dialysis or an organ transplant. Yet specialized treatment like these are rare and generally exorbitant in Pakistan. The cost of dialysis alone is 4 times the average annual per capita income. As a government doctor, Syed Adeeb-Ul-Hasan Rizvi believes it is wrong for such life-saving measures to be so hopelessly out of reach. At his state-of-the-art institute in Karachi, he provides them free of charge. Indian-born Rizvi studied medicine at Dow Medical College in Karachi, and for 9 years honed his surgical skills in Great Britain, specializing in urology. Spurning the temptation to remain abroad, in 1971 he returned home to establish his specialty at Civil Hospital in Karachi. This public hospital possessed no instruments for treating renal patients at the time, not even an operating table. Allotted an 8-bed unit in the burns ward, Rizvi set to work. Beginning with urological surgery, Rizvi expanded his clinic services year by year, patiently adding dialysis treatment, ultrasound testing, and other high-tech facilities. In 1985, he performed Civil Hospital's first kidney transplant operations. Constantly outstripping the meager funds available, Rizvi motivated private donors to supplement government allocations. His clinic blossomed into a separate department, and in 1992 became an autonomous institute within Civil Hospital, the Sindh Institute of Urology and Transplantation, or SIUT. Rizvi's institute today is an oasis of cleanliness, efficiency and excellence. With the latest equipment and a dedicated staff of more than 400 doctors, nurses and technicians, it provides services once unheard of in a public hospital in Pakistan to over 100,000 patients a year for everything from kidney stones to end-stage renal failure. In 1997, the institute administered 35,000 dialysis sessions. 97 individuals received new kidneys. The cost of all this runs to more than $4 million a year. But Rizvi believes that everyone, rich or poor, has a right to good health care. At his institutes, patients pay nothing. At SIUT today, Dr. Rizvi and his staff train young doctors in urology and engage in research shared with hospitals, medical schools, and research centers throughout the world. The institute is a model for others in Pakistan and beyond. And soon, on a site donated by the government of Sindh, a new 5-story SIUT kidney center will house one of the most modern medical centers in South Asia. 70% of the institute's expenses are now met through donations. Contributors include Pakistani philanthropists and generous companies like Diwan Group, but prominent among them are hundreds of grateful patients and many thousands of Pakistani Muslims who dedicate a part of their annual zakat alms to support SIUT. Bespectacled with a shock of white hair, 58-year-old Rizvi is the conscience of Karachi, says an admirer. In a city torn by ethnic strife, his institute is a haven of tolerance. When talking about SIUT's work and needs, Rizvi draws attention not to himself but to his staff and beloved patients, the vast majority of whom represent the rural folk of Sindh. Reflecting on the kidney transplant that saved his life, one of them says, "One can't imagine what a blessing this place is in a country like ours." In electing Syed Adeeb-Ul-Hasan Rizvi to receive the 1998 Ramon Magsaysay Award for Government Service, the Board of Trustees recognizes his transcending the limits of a public service hospital to make kidney dialysis, renal transplants, and other life-saving medical services available free to thousands of Pakistani citizens.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Syed's session on Dr. Adeeb-Ul-Hasan Rizvi. I want to heartily welcome him to Lahore on behalf of the trustees of the LLF and on behalf of the people of Lahore. 1.5 years ago, Dr. Rizvi's footprint into the Punjab, the last area of Pakistan where he had not begun operations, his institute in Garden Town, was raided by the government of Punjab and closed down because, at the urging of vested medical interests and those pioneers of the medical movement who insist upon commercial organ sales from the children of the underprivileged to medical tourists, as has been happening in the northern areas of this province. 15 months, 16 months ago, Dr. Rizvi left Punjab, but is keen to return. Today, Iqbal Zaid Ahmed and the trustees of the LLF Foundation have focused the day to make way for a fresh return of Dr. Rizvi to the Punjab. He's 79 to 80, and he wants to bring free medicine, organ transplantation. He not only serves the underprivileged, the poor of this country, he will tell you, and the lines and the people sitting in medical centers in Punjab, in Lahore, Karachi, will attest that the middle class can no longer afford dialysis and transplantation treatments, and he believes it should be made available to all in this country. First of all, what Nadia read out to you was the citation of the prestigious Asian Nobel Prize, the Ramon Magsaysay Award from Manila. At that time, Dr. Rizvi accepted the award, but on behalf of the institution. He said, "The $10,000 and the citation you give me are for Syed, for the SIUT, and for the team. But what has happened since 1977? There has been a sea change. The journey has continued. Dr. Rizvi and his team have worked with honor in the earthquake of Kashmir, in the floods of Sindh and Balochistan, and in the floods in the frontier. They have spread their regional centers, there are now 10. Ironically, preparing his way into Punjab, the Chhablani Medical Center in Sakhar now serves a huge amount of patients from Balochistan, from Punjab, and from Sindh in Sakhar. And as a medical distinguished doctor who's a friend of mine told me, He was witness to the 2.5-day trip that Dr. Rizvi and his doctors take by train to Sakhar every week to treat 2,000 to 2,500 patients within 48 hours. Surgery, consultation, all once again free of cost. When he was asked to change the name of the Chablani Center because it was a Hindu name, Dr. Rizvi refused. He said, we will never change the name of the center because it was the Chablani Center before he came to it. So ladies and gentlemen, here's a man who is working in a very unique way. It's a privilege, yes, to speak to him, but it's a very difficult decision as to how to gauge his vision, the complexity of his thinking, and the kinds of service that he offers, he and his institution, SIUT, offer the country. I'll start with the changes. One is the geographical change. Two, the absolute, I would say, greed that now I have 100,000 people I'm treating free. I need to treat 200,000, 500,000, a limitless number of people free in this country, all the people who need free medicine and who must get it with dignity, without prejudice to caste, creed, religion, or anything. In this battle over the last 20 years, he's fought organized political groups, he's fought militants who dislike his dispensation in Islam, he's fought ethnic parties who wanted him to close his hospital doors to other ethnic configurations in crisis emergencies in Karachi, and he refused. So there's as much a rainbow coalition of people in this society arraigned against Dr. Rizvi and SIUT as there are proponents and people who believe in his vision and who believe in his humanity. I'm going to go back to the year 1938 to begin with, when Dr. Rizvi was born. The village was called Kalapur. We all know where Jaunpur is in eastern UP. Jaunpur last came into major historical prominence in the 15th century when the Sayeds and the Lodhis ruled in Delhi, and the Sharqi monarchs of Jaunpur provided the highest standards of taste, aesthetics, music, literature, and the arts in South Asia. They became a candle to illuminate South Asian culture and art for a great deal of time. But after this, Jaunpur, except in the period of Sher Shah Suri, sunk into relative obscurity. In the 20th century, another kind of thing was happening in Jaunpur. In a small cluster of villages which is around Kalapur and outside Jaunpur, at least 3 names ring out from this period when Dr. Rizvi was born and slightly before it. The first is the famous left-wing leader Sajjad Zahir, of whom you've heard in India. The second was the radical ideologue Dr. Syed Adeeb-Ul-Hasan in Karachi, and the third is Dr. Adeeb-Rizvi. Sir, I'm going to ask you, you grew up in the village of Kalapur before you went to school in Jaunpur. You lived in a united India. It was, I think, 9 years before partition or 10 years before partition, until you went to school in Jaunpur and then Vanarsi. Could you please tell me something about your life up there? What did you learn? What lessons did you learn?
Thank you, Modi. I think the atmosphere was very conducive and education was common, both in Hindus and Muslims. Kalapur had only, I think, 30 or 40 families, but there we had the, as you said, the left-wingers like Sayyid Sajjad Zahir, who was born there, then Hassan Abdi, and there you had Sir Syed Wazir Hassan, great supporter of Britishers as well as the Muslim League. So we had a very good mixture are both who were pro and anti-imperialist. But the impact was that education became common. There were schools, there were colleges, and today there are 3 universities in that small village with a girls' college. So, because of education, there was no problem between the Hindus and Muslims and all because of education. And I, frankly speaking, did not feel in any way any discrimination while I was there in the school.
Your father was a civil engineer and built bridges in the region, and you had decided early on in life that you wished to be an engineer.
Yeah.
When you went to Jaunpur and subsequently Varanasi. How did your plans change and how did you go to Pakistan?
No, actually, it was just out of some rumors, and my mother got panicked, and there was...
What kind of rumors?
Rumors was that there will be riots, and I was staying in the hostel in Banaras, and...
you were also the youngest and the most mischievous.
That's right. And so, all of a sudden, it was decided by the family members that I should be packed up to Pakistan, and I came here to Pakistan.
Jeannie, who's in the front row, will like this story. One morning, you woke up in Varanasi and you looked out of your window and you saw a famous musician.
Yes, I think I was lucky to be in Banaras there and to be in the company of late Bismillah Khan, because his son was my school fellow, and to listen him, and then to visit where he used to sit and sing on the Sasumed Ghat.
This particular day, he was walking on the street with a Shehnai and he was saying something.
That's right. And when there was murder of Mahatma Gandhi, this famous Shehnai, Suno Suno Hai Dunya Walo, Bapu Ji Ki Amar Kahani, that I heard for the first time directly when he was just leading the whole mob of Banaras, and he was playing on his flute this music.
So the child, Adeeb-Ul-Hasan Rizvi, who was born on 9th September 1938, the first sign of 9/11, as a conscientious left-winger, he sometimes feels the world celebrates his birthday a little too avidly in the last 15 years. He followed his family and his brother because his mother, although he doesn't admit it, found him to be troublesome, rebellious, left-wing. She sent him to Karachi so he could study in 1953. He came before partition. He arrived in Karachi, and in a short while, he joined DJ Science College. Troublemaker Adeeb Rizvi. Student leader Adeeb Rizvi. Elected head of the DJ Science College, who first of all decides that there is a manifesto all the students wanted. What were your early demands as a student leader elected?
Well, actually, because I was a little lucky because I used to get my money from India, but I had students who were far, far better than me intellectually, and they could not get admission because they could not pay the fees. At that time, you had to pay the fees in lump sum, and fees was very high. And so, and the admissions were not on merit. Even the meritorious were ignored. So our demand was admission should be on merit and only merit. Those who are meritorious, they should be provided free admission if there is problem. And those who are meritorious, they should be given the hostel free. But unfortunately, and that was the whole demand on which there was a big student demonstration, lot of trouble was there. But the saddest thing today is that what we protested 40 years ago, that admission should be on merit and only merit, In my lifetime, that has changed. Today, it is common day, if you ask anybody, even in medical college, that the admissions are not on merit, they are on self-finance.
But sir, you are trying to, I think, garner sympathy from the audience. I must put on record that your first confrontation was with the famous Maulvi Tamizuddin Khan, who rose to be the Speaker of the Assembly. He came to DJ Science College and you had an antagonistic incident with him.
Well, actually, it was not, he liked me very much. When I was in jail and I used to come from jail, he always used to come and sit in the lawn and meet me. And problem was that he was chairman and he promised to come and preside over the Eid Milad-ul-Nabi function, and the condition was that nobody will speak on politics. And unfortunately, something went wrong and he started talking on politics. So, being president of the DJ College Student Union, I had to refute, and he didn't like that. He got very much annoyed and walked out of the...
So you opposed Maulvi Tamizuddin Khan for talking about politics, and yet you had a somewhat more radical and vibrant encounter with Mushtaq Gurmani, who was at that time the Interior Minister. He came to speak to the students. You were agitating across the city for more rights for students, and Mr. Gurmani left in protest, but left his car behind. Did you see that car, and if so, what did you do to it?
No, actually, late Mushtaq Ahmad Gurmani, who was a great patron of mine in the last days of his life, he didn't go himself. He pacified us, and we were going back, and then I think it was DC who came, who took him away. And as soon as Gurmani Sahib left the place, police started shelling and lathi charge. So in reaction, students reacted, and so...
So you said the students reacted, but I'm more particularly interested in how you reacted. You lost your temper, didn't you?
I did, and then...
What did you do?
And then I did something very silly, and there was a...
Dangerous, I would say. Violent.
Yes, and there was which I will not like any of the youngsters to do now, because there was a tailor's shop.
A tailor shop.
Yes, and iron was hot there, and he put that hot iron.
You put the hot iron in this car and you set it to fire.
Yes.
So what kind of example do you think you set as a humanist to people today?
Well, I think it was not good. Not good.
You wouldn't do that kind of thing again?
I will advise them not to do.
Okay. So, and then you didn't stop. You confronted the Commissioner Karachi, who was like a potentate in those days. You confronted him. His name is Eti Naqvi, and you raised demands continually for the students, as a result of which you were thrown for 13 months in prison.
No, just imagine, Modi, what was the situation at that time. There were no hostels. The fees was very high, sky high. The best of the students...
Which hostel did you live in?
Mitaram.
Mitaram Hostel. There were no hostels in those days, but you lived in Mitaram Hostel. Today, Mitaram Hostel is a military court and has deprived most of the people living there of the right to live. The Jinnah Courts Hostel in Karachi is the headquarters of the Rangers. So we haven't advanced, have we?
I never say. I say that we have gone back, because the whole struggle which student started 40 years ago was to make the education easy, available, accessible and free. That has gone. Today every medical college in Lahore, in Karachi, they take pride that we are admitting so many on self-finance. We are taking so many students from America and other places, and we are charging in dollars. So we have gone back. We've
gone back, and you were punished for your transgression. for insulting A.T. Naqvi and insisting on your policies. It was after 13 months in prison, no medical college in Pakistan was prepared to admit this firebrand student leader. And when Liaquat Medical College was applied to in Hyderabad, which was an excellent college in those days, you couldn't get further. Then you were working on and off as a journalist in Dawn and in other organizations on a retainer, and somebody important intervened to ensure your entrance into medical college. Yes. Who was that?
Rashdi Saab, Maroon.
Pir Ali Muhammad
Pir
Rashdi.
Ali Muhammad Rashdi. He came to my, because I got my admission in Liaquat Medical College on merit, but at that time, the administrators there, they refused it because I had been in jail.
And you'd also burnt down Mr. Gurbani's car.
Yes, that might have been one of the reasons. But main thing was that because I have been in jail, and
the intelligence agency reports of that time describe you as a discredited, violent student radical.
Well, I think today that should be a certificate for me.
So, Liaquat Medical College is important.
Yes.
Because the beginning of your views on medicine begin to be formed there. Your yes. search for senior doctors, your idealization, your giving of respect to senior doctors, yeah. and the equation with junior doctors, which is a model for Syed as to how it works, began to be formed there. But it was also an important period in your life because you met Hajra Shamalak. Who was Hajra Shamalak?
Hajra Shamalak, she was a student, she became my wife, and I met her in first year, and since then...
oh, you proposed to her?
Yes.
Or did she order you to marry her?
Actually, I always maintained that I proposed to her, but she always used to refuse. She said, no, I proposed to you. So that continued.
The late Hajra Shamalak, who is now no longer with us, who was a beacon in Adeeb-Rizvi's life, who, despite being from a conservative commercial group, the Boras, showed the kind of sense of mission. She stood by her husband. She waited 2 and 3 o'clock every morning for him to return. She lived in a small house in Nazmabad, and he still lives there today. They had death threats from the party, from the government, from the fundamentalists, but she continued to look after him and cook for him. Unfortunately, she is no more. Then begins a period in Britain. And the first thing that happens to you in Britain is you decide to fight on the premises of the Pakistan embassy. When you go there with students and you discover what the educational attaché is up to. Yes. Will you explain to us?
Yes. We entered, 3 of us, 2 from East Pakistan, I was one, 3 of us, we entered in Pakistan High Commission, and there we saw the education attaché, who was actually sitting with his, not the way he should have been, putting one leg on the table, and one of our very respected demonstrators, she was standing. That we did not like. We got inside. We offered her to sit a chair and asked her, well, you know, as you are, once you going from Karachi to London and offering somebody a chair without taking the permission of the person, he got annoyed. And that's how we had some problem. But our demonstrator, the lady, our teacher, she told her off and asked her to leave the room. So we left the room, and we had problem with Pakistan High Commission, and they cancelled my scholarship.
You were a suspicious surkha, and you began to take pictures with bus drivers, with the proletariat in London. At the same time, your senior teachers who supported you despite the Pakistan embassy in London, your professors began to help you find working opportunities to increase your experience in general surgery. Yeah. And that was a very important period in your life, and in the wonderful description by the Ramon Magsaysay award referees of how this process has continued. You found several strong supporters in London. You lived there, you had a car, but the desire to return to Pakistan seemed to continually be with you.
Let me just say one thing more, Hamoodi, that whatever I learned in England, the foundation of that teaching was laid down by my teachers here in Karachi, in Civil Hospital and Dow Medical College. It is they who laid down the foundation on which...
And these were strong foundations. They were better academic foundations.
I was proud. I was proud of my teachers of Pakistan when I was operating or assisting there in England, because they were no way inferior to those British, the Scottish doctors.
Yeah, but you acted a little strongly. You found a very good job in London, and then you turned them down and said, I'm going back to Pakistan. That's where I belong. So you went to Pakistan, and you joined, firstly, another hospital, and then finally Civil Hospital.
Yeah.
You came back to London, you sold your car so you could buy medical equipment to help the 8-bed hospital ward. It was a part of the Burns ward. That is where SIUT began. It wasn't an SIUT, it was only an 8-room bed in the ward, and the government wouldn't give money, and there was no money, there was no operation room, and Dr. Adeeb-Rizvi began from there.
Actually, the condition for the job in London was to change the nationality, to take the British passport, which I never wanted. That was the main reason that I turned down that job. And frankly speaking, if I am asked to put in the time tunnel, I will do it again, because I don't have to repent for that, what I have been doing.
So you didn't at the beginning necessarily choose urology. That was a place that needed you.
I never wanted to do urology. I still think that I'm a gypsy, where to settle down. But as there was no other job, urology was given to me, and my teachers told me to stick and to stay back. And so I stay back there. And that's why in urology, I did not confine myself to pure core urology, because as you have seen, I've got very good colleagues, Anwar and others are there, they are doing. And I shifted gradually towards transplantation, then neck surgery, parathyroid surgery, kidney transplant, liver transplant, all these things. That's why to actually fulfill the gap which I feel for not doing the general surgery.
So the conventional explanation is you were in urology, you were in the ward of urology, and you had a dream. And the dream was a vision for SIUT. But other people who are in civil hospitals say you were a nuisance of the first order for civil hospital. The reason was it was a filthy hospital with one sparkling urology ward. And the whole of Karachi would come to see this medical miracle of a clean urology ward, clean floors, patients who were respected. The Adeeb-Ul-Hasan Rizvi model was in order. The senior doctors were respected. The junior doctors were made to work till 2 and 3 in the morning, and the relationship between the junior and senior doctors formed part of the new medical direction that became the SIUT. When SIUT was formed, there was a cast iron charter which became the basis of this.
Hamoodi, let me tell you one thing. I was very lucky in one way, and I will request, if the young doctors are sitting here, that I spent all my life in hostel, and in medical college too. I was in boarding house in the hostel. When you are in medical college hostel, you have got plenty of time to roam about in the hospital and see the plight of the patients, their relations, their attendant. And so, lot of things which I started doing, it was out of my own observation. I have seen ladies taking out their earrings, selling it for the medicine. I have seen people begging outside for the money. I have seen I'm sorry to say, the relation being abused.
And you've seen hospitals close, government hospitals close at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
At 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
You weren't going to accept that?
Which I will not accept. So, having seen that, that what gave me a feeling when I was still here, that why the medicine should not be free. It should be free with dignity. And, but people used to say that I'm utopian. When I went to England and saw the national health system, I thought that it was doable. Why we can't do it? And so when I came back, that was the pattern on which I started. And today I strongly believe that it is doable. Every human being has got a right to access health care free with dignity, irrespective his caste, color, creed or belief. The only thing is, if we think that the person sitting next to me is just like me, his pain is like me, his needs are like me, his desires are like me. If we just think that he's just like us, there should be no problem. We have to own the philosophy.
Free medical access to all Pakistanis with dignity, irrespective of caste, creed or color. Nadia, can you read from the Charter principles that established Syed and made it a beacon for today's socialized medicine in a vast deteriorating public health sector and a burgeoning but not always effective private sector? Nadia.
Charter of SIUT. The objectives resolution represents principles, philosophies, concepts and procedures through which Sindh Institute of Urology and Transplantation and its allied bodies will operate over the years, decades and centuries. These objectives shall be deemed to be the charter that shall not be altered or amended. SIUT represents a unique model of operation as conceived and implemented successfully for the last 2.5 decades by its founder. This is neither a public-private partnership nor a non-profit organization concept. This represents a government and community relationship where professional management, being doctors, healthcare professionals and educationists, act as a catalyst. There is no precedent for such a model in this country. This board considers that model is workable and in the circumstances prevailing in Pakistan and other developing countries is the only sustainable solution for development in this field. SIUT shall provide services to patients free with dignity, irrespective of their color, religious beliefs, caste or creed. We shall provide education and training free with dignity to students selected solely on merit. Our assets and properties, whether tangible or intangible, shall not be used for commercial purposes. We shall remain an equal opportunity employer. Our full-time faculty members shall not be allowed to engage in private practice in any manner. We shall remunerate the faculty members and other staff commensurate with their experience, expertise and services to the Institute in conformity with the remuneration available in other compatible institutions/opportunities. We shall endeavor to engage expertise available indigenously. SIUT shall operate with the principle that there is no conflict of interest in decision-making processes. Any person having a conflict of interest shall abstain from deliberation on such matters. SIUT desires to promote employment at all levels. Therefore, we desire activities and functions shall not be outsourced. We shall have a principled stance for the promotion of ethical medical practices. It shall remain a forefront campaigner for abolition of unethical practices, like commercial transplants and availability of medicines at affordable, fair prices.
That, ladies and gentlemen, was the charter of SIUT. And Adeeb Rizvi, from an early age, had learnt certain things, had practiced certain things, had been a firebrand, had his friends and had his enemies, and he was determined to make them. So the 80s and 90s, while Syed or SIUT is moving forward, is a period of antagonisms where Adeeb Rizvi was under threat for his life while making this system. In Sindh government, the government was angry. The bureaucrats were angry with SIUT. Adeeb Rizvi would not sign the dotted line for medical equipment import where kickbacks were being paid and made in the Sindh government with bureaucrats. In the late 1980s, when the anti-Sindhi riots took place under the MQM and many Sindhis were killed in 3 nights, Altaf Hussain and the MQM announced that no hospital in Karachi, included in all those funded by the KMC, would be allowed to admit anybody who was Sindhi as a casualty patient for emergency treatment. Adeeb Rizvi violated that, and all Urdu-speaking virtually faculty and student body fought hard and refused to close the doors. The MQM was angry. Third, a man who is not religious but believes in God and humanity was born a Shia. The militants and extremists decided that as a Shia doctor, he had to be killed. He fought that pressure and continued to come to hospital at 1 o'clock at night, at 2 o'clock at night, and be there working all day, while his wife Hajra sat in the house waiting for him to come and eat a meal over a 24-hour period. He fought that as well. So the antagonists were out, and last but not least, once all this had been settled, today the Sindh government and the PPP respects Adeeb Rizvi. It's taken them time to realize it. The militants continue to hate him. Even the MQM realizes he's the most shining example of humanism that the Urdu-speaking community was able to produce, although he doesn't see himself as belonging to any single community. He belongs to all communities in Pakistan. As far as the militants are concerned, they keep their pressure up on him, but you can't beat Adeeb Rizvi. He has one of those high-roof Suzukis where he goes around him. The mistake was when the federal health minister phoned him from Islamabad and said, I want to come and see Syed, SIUT, send me your car. So Adeeb Rizvi very naively sent him his high-roof Suzuki. The man called him back and said, I've never been so insulted. I've never traveled in this car. He said, you said my car. This is the only car I have. So to go forward on your road towards your vision of socialized medicine, which 1998 in the Ramon Magsaysay Award had been a turning point, you went beyond kidney transplants. You were greedy. You knew that militants and the mullahs would be furious if they found out that on top of civil hospital and on top of Syed, you had a sty where pigs were reared. Pigs were experimental liver transplant. There had been no liver transplant in Pakistan. Adeeb Rizvi used to experiment with pigs, cut them open so he can learn the techniques of one of the most complex transplant operations which had not made its way into Pakistan. He had to treat his team and he had to do this. And he would go to London and he would work with the best transplant teams up there. Everybody knew him. Everybody was coming to Syed. When you would ask famous transplant people from London as to why are you in Karachi, and they would say, we work night and day up there on transplants. Coming to Adeeb Rizvi is like having a martini. Watching how this country helps its people at SIUT is the kind of kick we look for in life. So he did his first liver transplant. But at a time when the antagonism with Afghans was growing very strong, he chose a 4-year-old Afghan child to save his life with that transplant. That was the first liver transplant in Pakistan. It is seldom known that as a result of that transplant and the various surgeries he was trying, Adeeb Rizvi's pancreas got affected. And he almost died. And his life was saved, and the transplant went forward, and Pakistan entered the liver transplant age, which is a development. Now you moved one step further. You decided to pass a bill against, first of all, you wanted cadaver transplant because dead people who were dying were not allowed to donate their organs. It was not legal in Pakistan. And this was one of the biggest source of corneas and other organs which could be used in transplant. You decided to spearhead a bill through the National Assembly and Senate. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, actually, Pakistan had become the largest bazaar of cheap organs in the world. And even BBC and CNN, they used to have the headline of this, and it was very demeaning. And that was actually going on. So we tried, but here I must say that the journalist, jurist, the member of the community, profession, with the exception of those who were making money, they all cooperated with us, and the law was passed, and it was passed unanimously by both the houses at a time when there were a lot of divides. A unanimous law was passed, and that actually was challenged in the Shariat court, and Shariat court threw it out, and they also accepted the law, and we had a law, and for some time the sale of the organ went down. But later on again it came up, and even today it is going on. It is going on right under the nose of the authorities here. I might have seen that some hospitals are closed down, some doctors are behind bars, but still it is going on. How we come to know? Because we are in the ethical committee of the World Transplant Society, and we get all the information that how many have been done in 1 week. Even last week, 2 transplants have been carried out in Nawalpindi. How it is going on, we don't know.
And just in case you're wondering whether this is volunteers who are agreeing to sell their organs, it's frequently children in Punjab and in the frontier who are kidnapped by mafias and their kidney removed to accommodate medical tourists from abroad. So I come to the last of the important stages, not being content with having expanded his organization, not being content with 10 regional medical centers which are operating today across the country apart from the headquarters in Karachi. The Kashmir earthquake takes place, and the Sindh floods take place, and the Balochistan floods take place, and Adeeb Rizvi and his teams have no permission, no authority to go into these areas. They hold up their gratuities, their provident funds, they pack their bags, they use their endowment, and they go and help the poor. When you saw the Sindhis walking after the floods, and a journalist asked you on television, have you seen, sir, what a few days of floods have done to their faces? What was your reply, Dr. Rizvi?
Well, actually, it is not once, but many times when you go to the flood area, when the people who have come, left their homeland and they have come on the street, even in the south of Punjab, you say that it is flood. It is not the flood. The children are illiterate, they are stunted, they are malnourished. So this is not 1 week flood which have made them illiterate. This is not 1 week flood which have made them given them stunted growth. It is not one week flood which have made them sick, or the eyes are gone. It is the lifelong, it is centuries-old injustices which is being done with them. They
And
have
70
been
years of
deprived.
misgovernance in Pakistan? And 70 years of misgovernance in Pakistan?
70, maybe more. And still, now when we talk of the thing, well, I say, I keep on telling sometime, I hope you will not mind if I say, we say the country is independent. Yes, country is independent. The people are still slaves, because 80% of the people who are working on the land, how much right they have got? How much right they have got? So, actually, until unless you liberate the common man economically, every flood will show the same face. But it is not because of the flood, it is because of what we have been doing for the last 80 or 100 years with our people. We are depriving them of their basic right to eat. Sir, there has to be something in their stomach. There has to be something on their body to cover their body. There has to be something on their head as a roof. And there has to be something in that book which we call Constitution for these common people. Until unless we bring these radical changes, the flood will keep on coming and shape will remain the same. That's what I told the journalist.
So Dr. Rizvi continued. I would like to ask you as an audience today to join me in a moment of sustained applause to this great man who at 79 to 80 has reached a stage in his life. He goes home, there's no family there, his children are working as doctors across the world, there's no grandchildren who are the apples of his eye, there's no wife who's looked after him for 70 years, 60 years, there's only the hospital where he returns like a restless moth. Ladies and gentlemen, I request Bobby Rahman Saab to come to the stage. Lights please, lights everywhere. Lights please. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Iqbal Zaid Ahmed is present. He has with him I. Rahman. I would like to announce that the LLF has decided to bestow its prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award, which could be announced, in fact, by Iqbal Ahmed and I. Rahman themselves. But since I'm closer to the mic, I'm announcing it. I want you to join in applause for Dr. Adeeb-Rizvi. And pray that the footprint that was established in Garden Town and which was destroyed and he was returned from Punjab should now start again and Syed should come to Punjab. The award will be given to Dr. Rizvi with all the chaos of the days. It is lying in one of the back rooms along with all the plans that we had to have a 3-day festival. But it will be reach him. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your support. Thank you Rizvi Saab for coming here, and thank you LLF for acknowledging his life. There are some pamphlets available up here. Remember, with Dr. Rizvi, you can sign that letter saying that your cornea, your kidney, and your organs after your death.
Yeah, you can register as an organ donor.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the LLF, it is my honor and pleasure to request Adeeb-Ul-Hasan Sahab NUC to announce the award for Dr. Adeeb Sahab. And also, sir, on my behalf, I would like to announce that once your hospital comes to Lahore, I would be the first person to contribute financially and also in any other capacity that you would like me to contribute.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It's my privilege to confer this award on Dr. Adeeb-Ul-Hasan Rizvi for 4 reasons. 1, he has given new life to a large number of people. 2, he has shown that an institution can be established in Pakistan. And 3, for giving the poor hope that they are not friendless. And 4thly, for linking and giving the people of Pakistan the glimpse of their right to health. The honored Dr. Rizvi.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Dr. Adeeb-Ul-Hasan.